All righty. Hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This is our first session. Welcome in. This is kind of like the premiere here to our series talks. It's been in discussion amongst the team of Gene and Doc Rob and I in the ACM San Antonio organization here. And super excited to be kicking this off with our very own Officer Gene. Let's just kick it off right now. Moving in, we have today our conversation, a topic, our series talk. This is part one of three, but first of all, make sure you follow us on our social medias. We have things like our website that was made by Gene, actually, our meetup, Luma Calendar if you're looking to check out all of our other events, and the Discord where everybody in the SA community is pretty active at right now is DevSA Discord. You can check those out through these QR codes. These will be available at the end of the stream as well. So if you miss them right now, no worries. This is also recorded, so you can always reference back as well. So let's try to jump in. What is a serious talk? What are you expecting from this? What are you going to get out of this? Well, the idea is this is a multi-week event. We're looking for consistency. We're looking for maybe once a week, once every other week. But this one's going every other week. And it'll typically have one speaker. So someone who's trying to drive a conversation or trying to add, kind of create like a course almost, and help deliver maybe something new to you or new to someone else around you. But the ideas are to go from like beginners to intermediate to advanced topics. And with that being said, something easy to follow, right? That's pretty crucial to this whole flow here. We move into that something that you'd like to be able to digest, maybe take home some like work if you're trying to code along or build along with our speaker. And that's the idea for that. All of this will be streamed online, even our final event. I'm getting to that piece there right there, which will be in person. We will be streaming all three of these events online on our YouTube channel, as well as all being recorded. So if you miss them now, don't worry. You don't have to always see it live, but it will be available for you later too. So today with React Native, more to come on that in just a second, but part one of three is happening right now. It's recorded live, so none of this is pre-recorded. I'm making this up as I go. Just kidding. And how we will be handling, if you have any questions during the session or even after, make sure you check out uh, the open Q&A. So if you have a question either in Discord, I'm monitoring that chat along with my partner Doc Rob, as well as the YouTube chat. So if you got questions for the speaker, totally reach out. Even if you have questions after, make sure you check that out as well. So to reiterate, we do have this happening every week. So it's a 3-week long event. Today is Thursday, August 22nd. Next one is August 29th. And our final one, the in-person event, also recorded and streamed live, will be September 5th. So hopefully y'all can make all these sessions. Hopefully really get to see y'all at the in-person event. But without any more delay, let me introduce to y'all Gene Tigner, our speaker for today. Hi, Gene. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Good. Excited to have you here. So I won't talk too much longer, but I'll go ahead and give you the floor and introduce yourself. Super excited to have you here, Gene.
Sure. I'll just go ahead and skip to the next slide real quick because that is my introductory slide. But a little bit about me. My name is Gene Tigner. I graduated from UTSA May of 2020. I have 3 years of experience working with with React frameworks and about 4 years of experience working with web development frameworks. 2 years of experience working with React Native. Part of my background also includes video game development. I have worked 2 different jobs in the industry that focused on some sort of VR, AR, mixed reality, XR experiences. So those have been pretty fun. But over the years, I've noticed and grown more fond with web frameworks and React and Angular and all these other wonderful tools that allow us to easily make React Native helps us make these applications on the phones that are very easy to put together and streamlined for both Android and iOS development. So getting more and more into that every year. And now I'm actually working for HEB doing web dev and mobile application development. So it kind of just fits right in with what I've been doing. and I couldn't be happier. So let's go back up a slide. So this is a beginner's guide to React Native. And what I mean by beginners is I'm talking someone who is looking at a vanilla level experience on a Mac or a Windows machine. Now, with that being said, I've tested out everything that I wanted to showcase to you today, and I've gone to the extreme of deleting all that stuff from my ecosystem on my machine. So I am going to be showcasing from scratch how to, what is Node, what is React, and then finally what is React Native, and that's going to be today's agenda. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. And then also Zach and Doc Rob, feel free to interrupt me at any moment when any relevant questions come up, because I can't see chat. So a couple things. So I am working with an M3 Mac. So most of the information that you'll see on screen today is relevant for M1 and M2 Macs because I am working off of an M3 Mac. I do have some PC information in here. However, I have not had the time to go in and test all that together to ensure that it is a well-rounded ecosystem. But that's not going to stop me from helping anybody that's using a Windows machine from going anywhere, moving forward with what they want to do. Because after this entire presentation, I will be sticking around on the DevSA Discord to help anyone that may have had a problem with any steps during this talk or this guide. So kind of, if you get stuck at any time, just relax, just take it all in. But you can follow along if you'd like. These slides, I will also try to make these slides available after the fact as well. Moving on here. So React Native is built on top of React. React is built on top of Node, among other things. Node is a JavaScript runtime environment that executes JavaScript code outside of a web browser. What else it can do is you can build. So web browsers most of the time, or all the time, are going to be running JavaScript of some sort, right? So this allows you to bypass that and just build natively on your machine using JavaScript. The reason we need to include this is because we need to take use of the package modules. So the React library lives inside of the Node ecosystem. In order to access that, we install Node, and we need to take note of a few vocabulary and terms. So we're going to be talking a lot about packages and modules, which are reusable pieces of code that can be imported and exported, like a library. NPM is the Node package manager. It's going to be used for installing these libraries a lot that we're going to be using. The package.json file is going to be a introductory level file for your project that is going to tell Node how to build your project. It's kind of like a base level blueprint, if you will. And then npx is the Node package executable command, which should be installed with Node. It runs packages without installing them globally. It's a very useful tool. I see it being used more and more these days. So moving on. So what are we looking at in terms of environment? One of the most frustrating things to deal with as a developer is environment runtime and environment variable setup. So I've kind of piecemealed it a little bit here in terms of what is needed for each ecosystem. So for a Mac ecosystem, you just need your terminal and you need Xcode. For a PC, you need to have PowerShell or command access to the command line of some sort, or Windows Terminal. I prefer Windows Terminal, even though it is just kind of a wrapper for CMD and PowerShell. It's still very powerful. You can also integrate any other things like Git Bash and all that other stuff into it. Very useful and customizable. And then for both ecosystems, we're going to make use of Android Studio. And that we'll set that up later down the line. And we're also going to have Node installed on both. There are some iffy things with Node between both ecosystems, and we'll get into that. Moving on. Also not listed here, you will need an IDE of your choice. So for Mac environments, Xcode is required because you need to have access to the dev tools that Xcode provides. And you also need to be able to spin up an emulator, which is controlled through Xcode as well. So for those iOS people, I am going to go ahead and install Xcode. So give me a second here. So let's do this. Just Google Xcode, go to developer.apple.com, and you should have a download option. Make sure that you choose allow. If you're on Mac, or rather, you're only on Mac for this because Windows doesn't have an Xcode option, but you should be able to go to the store here and then download the Xcode developer tools. While this runs, I will go back over here and move on. So while we're waiting for that to download, the reason you need Xcode is not only because of those things, but whenever you build out a React Native project, which we'll do at the end of this talk today, it's going to build out an iOS folder system, and we will be able to take advantage of that folder system within the Xcode ecosystem. Like if we want to get a more fine-grained look at all the files in there, Xcode is probably the best place to go to look at those and check if there's any problems, especially with pods. Things get iffy with pods, and we'll talk about those in a moment. All right, so for Mac users, and we're going to be installing NVM. This is the Node version manager. It is a package that is available for iOS and Linux. There is a version of it for Windows, but it is nothing I've ever used. It's not the same as normal NVM. So unfortunately, Windows users, you don't have access to this specific version. And I don't know what is entailed in that Windows version of NVM. So I have included a curl command here, which I'll be providing later on Discord as a quick way to download download NVM. And the reason I'm sitting here is because I forgot you cannot highlight and copy paste. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a terminal. Let me minimize this. Terminal. And I am going to run this command. So I just copied and pasted here. It's a curl command, and it's going to install NVM. Let's see. Oh, okay. So I got to wait, actually. Let me cancel this. Did this install? Curl install total? Okay, so I need the Xcode command line tools. So I have to wait for this first. So as you can see here, it is yelling at me because I do not have the Xcode command line tools for developers. So that's one reason why we need Xcode. Should be just about done here. While I wait for that to finish up, so there's a lot of really cool things you can do with Node and NVM in general. NVM is a very powerful tool for managing all of your different Node packages, because you may not want to always be working on the LTS version, long-term support version of Node. Maybe you want to work on a different version, and NVM is extremely powerful. It lets you switch between different versions of these ad hoc. So, all right, so now that this is completed, I'm going to reopen a terminal, and I'm going to try again with the scroll command. There we go. So now that we have DevTools installed, it is happy. So you can see here that it installed this, and it said close and reopen your terminal to start using NVM, or run the following to use it now. You have these things, and these are environment variables that will get loaded into either your bash configuration file, or in my case, it should have been added to my ZSHRC file because I'm using Z shell. So if I open up, I'm just going to open ZSHRC, and I come down to the bottom here, I have commented out these paths, but I am going to comment them back in. So I'm going to remove these commentations here. Oops. And I'm going to save this file. And then I'm going to use the source command to reconfigure or relaunch my CSHRC. And now what I should be able to do is I should be able to type in nvm and get instructions on how to run Node Version Manager. And you'll see a giant list of commands. And what we want out of this tool, and another way to check to make sure it's properly installed, I believe it's just nvm v, and it'll tell you the version that you're running. But the thing that we want primarily out of this tool is we want to install the latest version of Node, which I will get to in a moment. So let's move back over here. So here we installed nvm, and here this is the command to install the long-term support version of Node. So we'll take Node Version Manager, type install, and then LTS. Oops, let me go over here. nvm install LTS for long-term support. You can specify any Node version that you want to install here, and it'll encapsulate it into its own ecosystem to keep it away from the other Node versions that are installed. So here you can see it installed version 2017.0. This is the current long-term support, like the most recent long-term support that NVM has flagged. I'm not entirely sure exactly where it goes. I mean, obviously it goes here to get this, but I don't know how often this is updated. All right. Moving on. So for Windows, I actually do know how you guys are going to install Node. This is the command that you'll use if you access PowerShell. I believe you want to do this in PowerShell. So it's going to be the win-get command with the install option, and then you're going to use this package. It's openjs.nodejs.lts. So that'll also get you the long-term support version. Should download 20.17.0 to your machine. It's going to ask you a yes/no question because I think it's like security risk question. So you'll hit Y for yes. And then to check your Node version that's installed, you type node -- version into PowerShell or in your command prompt or any other terminal of your choice. So just to double check, because it's equal on both systems after this point, type node version, and we'll see that I am running Node version 20.17.0. That's great. What can we do? So after this point, we can start actually building a Node project. I've listed on here a handful of IDEs or text editors that you probably would want to take a look at and use. So the one that I'm partial to and biased for is WebStorm. However, Visual Studio Code is also one that I've grown to love in the past. Visual Studio Code was the first text editor experience I had outside of Notepad++ that I found to be significantly worth my time, especially with its tooling and its open sourcedness, allowing for communities to the developer community to get behind it and add different add-ons and packages for it. WebStorm is more of a fine-grained, enclosed, more proper IDE than Visual Studio Code, and it is for Node projects. While Visual Studio Code is for a lot of other projects, you can pretty much code in anything in it. WebStorm is IntelliJ's Node, I want to say Node specific or JavaScript specific IDE. So anything JavaScript related, WebStorm is relevant for. Other text editors and IDEs that you may want to look into are Atom and Sublime Text. I've heard good things about them. Vim and NeoVim are options if you really are struggling for computational space and you don't have a lot of graphical input and you just need a way to interface with code. I highly don't recommend them. I recommend getting to learn them and how useful they have been for the industry. But because if you ever find yourself needing a terminal or needing a text editor instead of a terminal, those are the tools you can use, or Vim or Emacs. Notepad++ is also a good tool. It's more like a standard Notepad, but with more options for code-friendly environment. So today I'm going to be using WebStorm most of the time. All right, so we're going to take Node for a test drive. We're going to actually spin up a project in Node. Right out of the box, you can just create one. So we're going to go ahead and run npm init to get our first project. So if I type npm init, it's going to come up with this information here, and it's going to ask us a few questions. So it's asking us to make a package name. So I'm going to make this a test project, and I'm going to hit enter on that, and I'm going to give it some description here. And I do want the index.js file to be the entry point. You'll notice that it won't make an index.js file for us, but it will tell it that that's going to be the entry point. Test command, if you have any like testing framework you want to set up or anything like that, you can put that there. And then Git repository, if you have a repository you want to link it to, you can put that there. Any keywords to help you find the project, and then author is always important. Put your name on things that you make, people. If you have a license that you want to put on here, MIT is a license that we see all the time on GitHub. Once you're done filling all that information, it will give you a preview of your package.json file. And if it's okay, you can hit yes. To see that, you can either do a cat in your terminal for the package.json, or you can just open the project. So where is this currently at? ls to list where I'm currently at. I'm going to make a new folder called test project, dear. And so I'm going to do mcdir test proj. There we go. And I'm going to move the package.json into test proj. And I'm going to change directories to test proj. So now I'm in here with this folder structure. If I want to open this, I can see that the only file in here is package.json. And if I was to open package.json, you will see that it is literally, oh, it's trying to open it in Xcode. That's hilarious. Okay. Because it recognizes that it's a JSON file, Mac wants to open it inside of the here. So let me finish up with Xcode real quick. So after Xcode installs, oh, hold on. It may ask you to install some information with it. I don't know why it didn't ask me this time. Maybe it's because I had it on my system before, but it may ask you to install macOS 14.5 built-in support and then iOS like 17.5 here. If anybody has any trouble with that, we can talk about it after this talk. All right, I'm gonna close this, and then instead of that, I am just going to, yeah, I'll do that again. So here's the structure for the package.json. To actually get this to be functional, we need to do an npm install. Once we do an npm install, it's going to look at our package. There's nothing really here. There's no other dependencies, but it's going to create this package lock.json file. That's just more of an expanded view of this. It kind of takes a look at any dependencies that you have installed and any sub dependencies of those dependencies that are needed. All go in the package lock.json file. All right, let's move on here. So we are. This got moved out of order. right about here. So we're about here. A package.json file should have been created after this, which we did. So we're going to make a simple hello world JavaScript project using this. And I have here a list of commands that were used to help create this. But let's just go ahead and make a new file. I'm going to touch a index.js file to create the file. And then I'm going to code index.js. And what that's going to do, I have a alias set up to launch this thing in WebStorm. So this is WebStorm, like a simple light view of a bigger version of WebStorm. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm just going to write console.log hello world. And this is just a very simple project. So I'm going to close that now. I'm going to come back here to, let me terminate this. And I'm going to make sure I'm in test proj. And I am going to do a node run index.js. Nope, not that one. Node. There we go. Node index.js. So you can see that it took our code and it executed it. npm also has a run command if we have it set up properly here. So we can have a start command. And that start command we can set to node index.js. And that should work. So let me do an npm install one more time to get it to refresh. I'm missing a comma. And then we're going to do a npm run start. Right? And then that'll execute this. And here we go. Hello world. So going back to the slide deck here. It's bigger. To recap, we created an index.js file. We made sure that it was living in the same space on our file system as the package lock and the package.json file. We modified the package.json file to make it easier to run the project with npm. And then we reran npm install to apply those changes. Once we were able to do that, we can either run node index.js to execute the index.js file, or we can do npm run start. And that is your first node program. I'm going to take a small break and ask Zach or Dr. Rob if anyone has any comments at this time. Moving too fast, moving too slow. Gut check. Okay, moving on. So, React. What is React? So React is an open source JavaScript library for building user interfaces. It is developed by Facebook. It is probably the most popular, or I haven't checked the statistic in a while. It used to be number one on top. It probably still is. But in terms of building a website, it's probably been one of the most useful tools in recent years when it comes to having a simple structure that's easy to understand. It's developed by Facebook, or now Meta, allows creation of reusable UI components. So what I like to kind of ask myself as a developer whenever I'm doing problem solving, because that's a huge crux of what we do in software development, is just problem solving, is ask myself what kind of problems existed that resulted in a need for something, right? So I need to understand the problem before I can have a good solution for it. And when it comes to React, what were some of the problems that existed and why did React make such a impact on those problems, and why was it such a good solution? So why use React? It simplifies complex UI management. It improves performance via the virtual DOM. It enhances code reusability, streamlines state management, increases development efficiency, and enables cross-platform development, which is the basis for React Native. So to have all this power behind one set of tooling definitely opens up, how do I put this? It kind of opens up the world for like you being able to, hey, I want to build out, I don't know if I want a website, I don't know if I want a mobile app, I just know I want to build something. And React, because of its flexibility and its streamlinedness and its simplified ecosystem, allows for a lot of flexibility with that. So it's, hey, this project was a website, but now I want it to be a mobile app. Same can be said with Node, as people keep building very valuable libraries on top of that. So setting up a React project. So React's Getting Started Guide recommends using Next.js. So React is a framework in itself for building websites. But in more recent years, a lot of people have started using frameworks within frameworks. So even React's website themselves say that you should set up a project using Next.js. I don't want to get into that. I just want to show you the basics of React so we can go on to the other framework that we care about, which is React Native. So instead of using the recommended Getting Started Guide framework of Next.js within the React documentation, we're just going to use the Create React App npx command to keep things simple. So we're going to be using npx for this. It's a package runner tool included with npm 5.2. It executes npm package binaries. It runs packages without global installation. And key features are one-off command execution, find correct package versions, and executes non-installed packages. Common use is this green text here. So npx create react app, and then whatever you want to call it. And then it also simplifies CLI tool usage and development. So we are going to use npx to create a React app. And you'll notice that I'm using a slightly modified version because I want to make sure that I'm using the latest of whatever Create React App is pointing to. So I am going to take this command. I'm going to go back to my terminal, and I am going to run Create React App. So let's do this. I'm going to move out of this. I'm going to make a new, I don't think I have to make a new project, but I'm going to anyway. Make dear new proj. I'm going to move into that. And then I am going to run that command. So once again, it is npx create react app, npx create react app latest, and then some new project. So it's going to go and find the create react app package. It's going to install required packages. It may ask you yes or no if you want to install them. Hit yes if you do. And give it a moment to do its thing. I honestly didn't even think about the internet being a problem. So. All right. So as it's building out things, it'll tell you information of packages that were installed. So this is just running a version of npm behind the scenes. So, and it actually did an npm install for us too, I think. So if I do an lsal command here, I can move into some new project. And yes, it did a npm install. So not only did it create all the project files we need, but it also did that install for us so we can start using it sooner rather than later. It also created a Git repository for us. So if I wanted to start, doing commits and making changes, I can eventually get this linked up to some GitHub repositories, like either GitHub or GitLab, any of those online repository systems that use Git. Very useful. Also already sets us with the git ignore, so we don't even have to worry about ignoring certain files. So how is this any different? Well, you'll see here we have a node modules folder. And if I open this up, you'll see this particular type of file structure here. Node modules, package.json, package.json, this public folder. So this is where like all of your graphics would go, your README MD for how to run the project, some helpful tips on how to run React, and a source folder for all of your actual code. This is a fully functioning website out of the box. Like, we can run this. So let's go ahead. I'm going to say code, and I'm going to hit this. So I'm going to open up this entire project in WebStorm. And WebStorm recognizes the project. And the README is presented very beautifully here. But I'm going to go ahead and open up a terminal here in WebStorm. And I am going to run npm run start. And that should run an instance of localhost, and bam, here is the running website on localhost. I believe the port is 3000. Yep, the standard port for this particular for React. Different, I think Angular has a different port, different ones have different ports. So let's change this. So real quick, we're going to do hello world and everything. So while this is impressive and it has a nice graphic, we're going to get rid of it. We're going to destroy it. So modifying this, pretty simple. All you have to do is go into the, let me see, app.js. So index.js was the introductory for the last one. And it is still the introductory here. It's the root file. But we want to take advantage of React in this context, and we want to make use of this app entry component here. So I'm going to remove all of this, and I'm going to replace it with hello world. Again, to show you what this looks like. So once you save it, there should be a watcher already listening for this the changes that you are implementing, and it should automatically update. So here is the hello world application. This, let me see, go back to the slideshow here. All right, we did that, and we modified the code, pulled it up in our IDE, and swapped out this block from the header down to be a H1 header for hello world. So that takes care of that part. This you can build websites with. You can also, you don't have to use React. You can use just standard HTML, CSS, and JavaScript to build a base level application, bare bones vanilla experience. Again, one of the reasons that these frameworks are so powerful is because of how simplified they make the process. If you want to do fancy stuff, it's getting easier to do fancy stuff in vanilla. But if you want to use like TypeScript and stuff like that, instead of having to deal with all the setup yourself, you can use these frameworks to already have a pre-configured setup in place, and you don't have to worry about Webpack or anything like that. All right. Now, moving on. Congratulations, you just made your first React program. So we've gone from Node, what it is, JavaScript as a general concept, and how to compile out code for that, to using a framework built in Node called React to help us build a website experience. But React was like, why stop there? Let's see if we can't create a general compiler that'll help us create mobile experiences. And that's where React Native comes in. So this one's going to be for everyone. Everyone, including Windows and Mac users, are going to need Android Studio at this time. So again, I'm hoping my internet is going to be friendly with me. So if you go to Android Studio website, so that way you guys don't get scammed, I'm going to show you where to go. So let's see, forward here. So Android Studio, and you're going to want to download Android Studio Koala. You're going to accept their terms of service agreement. I'm using a Mac with an Apple chip, so that should install. Once that is done downloading, dismiss that. Oops. Once that's done downloading, I will install the application, and then we'll be off to the races. Let's go back over here while we wait for that. Moving on down. So let's talk about this before we get into Android Studio. So Android Studio, you need to have several different things set up for this to work properly. And one of those things that we're going to do right off the bat is install an Android emulator. This will make it to where you can run a simulated device on your machine. It's a very helpful tool. And there's some nuances when it comes to installing this, though. So I'll get to that in a moment. So this is now done downloading. We are going to install it. Let me see. Downloads, Android Studio, DMG file. I think I need to put this on my desktop to install it. Okay. And then drag this to applications. And then once that's done, did that work? Yeah, it did. So now I have access to Android Studio. I'm going to open up Android Studio. I'm going to let it process. So I'm getting a warning here. It says Android Studio is an app downloaded from the internet. Are you sure you want to open it? Yes, we want to open that. We trust Android Studio. We trust Google. All right. So because I have some residual files left over from my uninstallation of Android Studio, it opened up a project. But you guys should have a window up that's like a normal new project Android Studio window, which is going to be something kind of like this, but more like y'all's might not be as this complicated. There might be like create a new project or something. But what we want to do is on y'all's version, if you go to the slides here, you'll have, oh, I guess I didn't capture that screenshot. My apologies. You'll basically want to get to, let's see, Android Studio, Window, Tools, Device Manager. You want to get to the Device Manager here. So let me close that and close this. And the Device Manager, I'm just gonna replace. Okay, close that. Close that. I don't care. Windows, nope. Tools, Device Manager. Here's the Device Manager, and it looks like I already have one installed. I'm going to uninstall this for the sake of argument, and we want to create a new device. So we're going to create a virtual device, and that's how we get to this virtual device configuration screen. Now, there are different versions of phones to choose from. I prefer choosing the Pixel phones. So this is the emulated device that I want on my system. And I don't really care about a Pixel Fold. This is a very large phone. I just want to build an experience for this standard size phone. So I'm going to hit next on that. When you get to this screen on what system to install, system image to install, I highly recommend installing Upside Down Cake 34 because 35 broke my project and it just didn't run. And we'll get to that later and how I was able to determine that this was the problem. But it took me about an hour and 30 minutes to figure out that this API was not compatible with the current version of React Native that I was running. So download and install Upside Down Cake. Once that's finished installing, I'm not going to uninstall it here, but once that's because it takes too long to install. But once this is done installing, you'll hit next, and then you'll name your virtual device, the orientation that you'd like for it to be in. And here you can either enable device frame. I like to turn this off because I think it gives a cleaner look to the emulator. But if you turn it on, you get this nice little phone stylized look to it. It's like a polished metal look. So I'm going to hit finish. And then I'm going to run the device to test it. Takes a minute to run. I'm also going to pop this out to be its own window because we're going to use this in a minute. So, oh, cool. Did it crash? Don't send. Let's try that again. All right, there you go. If it crashes again, hopefully it won't crash again, but if it crashes again, we'll have problems. All right, so now we have a phone. So this is what this system here covers. Don't use API 35, use API 34. I will change this in the slides. Moving on. So let's go ahead and make a React Native project. But first, we have to install Watchman. And in order to install Watchman, we need to use Brew to install Watchman. Watchman is important because it's going to be watching for changes during the time that the React Native system is running. So we're going to take a detour to install Watchman. So let's open up a new terminal. And let's do brew install Watchman. I might already have this installed. Looks like I couldn't find it, so I went ahead and installed it. It did have one error. The bottle needs the Apple command line tools to be installed. You can install them if desired with the Xcode select installed. I thought that was already done, but we're going to do that anyway. Xcode select install. Looks like that took care of that. So let's try this one more time. Not sure what's going on there, but it looks like Watchman was successfully installed regardless, so should be good to go. Moving on to the next step here. So let's go back to the slide deck. I put a note here. Anyway, I put a note here that it says it's possible that the shell may not know what brew is. So to fix that, you can use an export command here. So that looks like this. Let me show you guys. So I'm going to open up my ZSHRC file, which is just my terminal configuration file. Down here, I have a couple things commented out that I'm going to need to comment back in here soon. But one of those things is right here. You need to make sure that this export exists if your system doesn't understand what brew is. And this is path is equal to $path :/op/homebrew/bin. So. All right. Talking about the Android SDK. So a couple things we need to do in here. We need to export Android home location so that way whenever we go to build our project, it understands where our Android SDK is expected to be within our system. The other thing we're going to need to do is update our path with a reference to Android Home's emulator and update our path with a reference to platform tools for Android Home. We'll get to this one in a moment. All right. So now that I have made changes here, I'm going to save this. And it's very important that we do a source again or restart our terminal. Because if we don't do this, it's not going to understand what we're talking about. So let me clear that. I don't know what this is doing. Anyway, let's go to the slides. Moving on down the list. All right, so I believe that, so it used to be that you go to Oracle's website and like go to Java to get these GDKs. I think that's changed because I think, I could be wrong here, but I think Oracle has started to charge like prices for those, and there's like an open version of JDK that now exists called Azul Zulu. So we were going to be using that explicitly Java version 17. So in order to do this, you will brew install cask Zulu 17, which I will now go run. I should already have it installed, but I'm going to do it anyway. So brew install cask. What was it? Zulu at 17. Not upgraded to simulation. So this already exists. So because this already exists, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do brew. Can I do brew install? Purging files. So let's now go install it. The reason I installed it because I want to show you guys what it looks like when you get a successful install. So here it's going to conduct a download from this binary. It does recognize the type of machine I'm running this from, so it already knows what type of DMG file to give me. So it's smart in that regard. If you're on an Intel Mac, it should default to the Intel version of this. I think I typed in the wrong password. Nope, got it right. Okay. So now what it's doing here is it should be forcefully updating our pathing information for us. So this is installed Azul Zulu JDK 17.52.17. So now what I should be able to do is I should be able to say Java and version, and I now have this JDK version installed. Really important to make sure to do this. If you don't do this, whenever you go to try to build your project for Android, it's not going to know what you're talking about. And then another thing, you need to make sure that this export is exposed here in your ZSHRC file as well. Otherwise, again, you may have problems during compilation time. So I am going to save this. Save all. And I am going to do a source here on ZSHRC to reload again. And I should be good to go. All right, what's next here? Okay, did that. And, oh, okay, cool. So now, there should be another slide in here, but I guess it got removed. We are going to now make use of React Native. So we're ready to do this for React Native. The command you guys are going to want to run is npx, we leave it as React Native init, and then it is the name of the project, test proj. The command was deprecated. Give me 1 second, because I know this should be. There it goes. So while this command was kind of deprecated, I vote to use this one over the other community one because of the issues that I had earlier, but the community one may work perfectly fine. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead and test it. Let's do n, and then I believe it was saying React Native community /CLI init, and then we'll do test proj 2. About command. Okay, maybe I just need no test proj. All right, so here what we'd like to name the app, let's call it, I'm going to call it test project 2. Not a valid name. Okay. Test project 2. All right, so now it's going to install all the dependencies that we need for running a React Native project. So it should make a couple folders for us. It's going to make a standard kind of React project, but it's also going to give us an Android folder and an iOS folder. For Android, it's going to build all the standard Android things with Gradle files. Should be a Kotlin-based project. Here it's asking me to install CocoaPods. CocoaPods are going to be useful for us because it gives us a way to install like third-party packages to connect them from the Node module ecosystem into the iOS ecosystem. So I'm going to hit yes on that. It's going to install Ruby gems. Takes a minute. All right, once that is done, it should have initialized a GitHub repository, and I should be able to go to test project 2, and I should see a iOS folder and an Android folder, and I do. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to code and open this up in WebStorm. So let's go to WebStorm here. This window is fine. And here's my project. I'm going to create a new terminal in this project. And we're going to take a look at this app.tsx project here. It has some standard. So what you see here is TSX, which is TypeScript. It's I forget what the X stands for. It's been a hot minute, but basically, these are different components that you can create yourself. So this scroll view and the safe area view, they're all coming from a import here. So safe area view, scroll view, and this is coming from the React Native library. You can see that here we've imported not only React Native libraries, but also React libraries because they go hand in hand with each other. Okay, so we've got a project here. We should be able to run it, right? So to run it, we can do an npm run Android. And this should spin up Metro, which we'll talk about Metro more next time. And once Metro is going, we hit either I to run on iOS, A to run on Android, or D for dev menu. We're going to do A for Android. It should build the Gradle project if it's not been already built. And it should recognize the fact that we have an emulator running. So let's give it a minute to finish doing its job here. And as you can see, it immediately recognized that. It is now bundling the project. And bam, React Native. So this is what you see here on screen is all in code available for us to mess with. If we want to also run an iOS emulator on the side, all we have to do is press I in the Metro terminal, and it should spin up an iOS device. Sometimes it has issues starting the device. So let's go ahead and open up an iPhone 15 Pro. You only get this emulator if you have Xcode installed, and you might not even get it then. Sometimes you could have it to where, for some reason, the emulators aren't installed. And if anybody wants to talk about that after hours on how to get these emulators properly installed into Xcode, I can have that conversation. So as soon as this is done booting, we can try launching again on iPhone. By hitting I in the Metro terminal. So Metro is constantly listening for keyboard input, always looking for any hits on any of those. So here it found that I have a booted iPhone 15 Pro. It's going to wait a minute. It's going to try to conduct a build. And are we going to get a successful build? Is the question. I'm going to try one more time here. I think I had this problem earlier, but F-35, jet designation for military. All right, so having some issues with the iPhone, but we'll come back to that. All right, so let's make a change and make this say hello world so we can call this one a wrap. We're going to go to WebStorm. We are going to go to the app TSX file, and we are literally going to just rip out everything inside of this view. And we're going to add a text element from React Native. And we're going to just say simply hello world. I'm going to go ahead and save that. And we don't need any of these. Actually, this is not even the thing I care about. I care about the return statement for the entire app. So let's take everything within safe area view and do that. We don't need the style sheet element anymore. We no longer need this function or this or any of these imports. We don't need the style sheet. We don't need these props. Don't need the background styles, and don't need to have the style prop or the style prop. So very bare bones. Get rid of the dark mode. Super bare bones. We're not going to use the color scheme hook. We'll get more into that later. So now that that's saved, Metro should have been watching for those changes. And as you can see here, we now have a very simple hello world rendering here. I'm going to try one more time with iOS. See if it'll accept. Yeah, it looks like iOS for some reason doesn't want to participate right now. So we'll have to figure that one out later. Oh, wait, no, it accepts it. There it goes. Took it a minute. There we go. So this is going to bundle too. So you can see how this is an extremely powerful system because you can develop. So if I make a change now, so I have both of these apps running. I have an Android app running and an iOS app running. If I come in here and I make a change and I hit save, over here they both update. So I can see in real time how it's going to look on both ecosystems. So, all right. So that's pretty much it. I think I went over by about a minute. I apologize, Zach, but I'll let you take it back over. Does any questions, anything from the community at this time?
Yeah, do you want to share your last slide there, Gene? Just in a...
Sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. I apologize. Give me a second.
No, you're good. You're just coming out of demo mode, so I feel you.
So this is the survey. I think you wanted, not survey. No, yeah, this is the survey for what you asked for me to put in here for other people to, if they are interested. This is that form. This is the Google form.
Yeah, and I can talk on this a little bit too, but this is our form here to, if you're interested in this kind of conversation, if you want to put on something like Gene is starting today, feel free to check it out. And then you have another slide, I believe, too.
Okay. Oh, real quick, I do have an optional homework slide for you guys. If you are interested, you don't. This is like nobody's required to do this, but if you're interested, you know, I recommend going in, creating a Node project, create a React project, and create a React Native project, and then put those on GitHub just to have something on GitHub. It's like, hey, I was able to successfully make these things, and then send those to me, and then we can party. All right, that's all.
And then his little call here too. If you have any additional questions outside of that, maybe didn't get asked here in the YouTube channel, feel free to reach out to him in the DevSA Discord. We have a channel now, thanks to Jesse, at ACM-SA under there, under the community spaces. So definitely hit us up there if you have any additional questions. But with that being said, thank you so much, Gene. Super excited to have you on for this first iteration. And with that, I'll say some other closing remarks. But have a good one, Gene.
All right, thanks.
But yeah, thanks for coming, y'all. Super excited to get this kicked off for our first iteration. We'll be, like I said, if you're interested in giving this kind of talk as well, we're willing to work with you. I help you create some of the content, help share some of it, and be the platform for you to be able to share as well. This is totally optional, nothing required, but super excited to have y'all here. Moving on to what's upcoming. We do have some events upcoming into the next week. So, like we were saying, this event is 3 weeks iteration. So, you'll see 2 weeks more. So, next Thursday at 6 p.m., also the Thursday after that at 6 p.m. But some other stuff coming up. ACMSA also does have an event called Get Under the Hood, where we will have a speaker, Justin Tobler, giving a conversation about just different things and complexities of Git. Super excited to hear his conversation next Wednesday. That is in person. Hopefully, be streaming it. Give y'all some info heads up pretty soon. But some other things coming up. September 4th, we'll see Geeks and Drinks monthly meetup. Feel free to check them out. And then additionally, I'm hiding it. September 7th, you'll see the meetup for Alamo City Lock Sport. So if you're trying to get into pick locking, that's a pretty cool event going on then too. Again, here's our socials. So if you haven't followed us or joined the Discord, definitely do that. Pretty active space right now. So excited to have people in there. And then again, thanks for coming out, y'all. Excited to have y'all. Excited to be doing this for our first time. And I hope y'all have a good day.